We got like this newer generation who's adapting quickly to technology and like they're not hung up on how things are supposed to be done.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
Lindsay, I'm having an okay day. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just hanging out. I had just maybe solved one of our agency's big personal lines problems that they're having right now. So it's a good day, filled with problem solving.
I love it. I'm on the road, man. So I am like at a very short stop in your town, headed to North Carolina to do a whirlwind up in the North Carolina area and then head to Ohio. So I feel like I am a woman on the road these days, and I'm ready to not be on the road. How about that? So, yeah.
I love to hear it. We were just, before we pressed record, speaking of being on the road, we were chatting about the Little Sparks Gala that's coming up in December that we'll both be at. And we are absolutely bummed to not be seeing our guest today there, who is Andrew Ryan. Man, we'll really miss you at the gala. I honestly didn't even put two and two together that you won't be there until now.
But tell them I have a good excuse.
Well, I don't know.
There's going to be a third Ryan child. So
that's a pretty good excuse.
We'll let you get a pass this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I would say so. So tell us, when is the third baby Ryan due?
Due the 25th. We have a bad habit of not being on the due date, though. So either early or late, we have a pretty big variance. So the due date doesn't mean much. So we'll see what happens.
So listen, I am a week before Christmas, and I think that it would be amazing if I could have, some company on my birthday. I will tell you, your child is going to forever either love or hate having a December birthday. I will tell you that. And it's been an incredible thing for us, though. Oh, you're not saying December. You're saying November.
It's November.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. I was immediately thinking about me. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah. I feel like it could be like before this podcast comes out, the baby's here.
Oh, yeah, it could be. It very well.
So the baby Ryan could be here right now.
That's funny.
I know. My wife made me promise. So like I have a bad habit of like ignoring her when she calls and then calling her back when I have a second. And she's like, from now on, you're answering every time I call, no matter what. And I was like, okay, I can do that for a month. So
I think that's a fair thing to expect for sure. So Andrew, I have known you for a little bit, actually for quite a while, but oddly enough, I do not know how in the world you found insurance or insurance found you. So please, for the people who do not know you, give them your background and tell them exactly how you found this amazing industry that we share.
Yeah, well, insurance definitely found me. I was a finance econ major at University of Delaware. I was positive I want to work on Wall Street. I was like, that's what I wanted to do. When I graduated, it was a little bit after the financial crisis. And to be honest with you, there's me and my three best friends. My three best friends all made it to Wall Street. I was the dumb one, didn't quite make the cut. So I was just getting a bunch of back office jobs, and I couldn't see myself living in a cubicle for the rest of my life. So I was working at a restaurant in college, and I knew that wasn't it either. So my wife was here in Ohio, so I grew up in Delaware, obviously, and my wife was my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, "Hey, my family friends have an agency. Do you want to come do an internship and then figure out what's next?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, why not?" I wasn't making that much money at the restaurant anyway, and I kind of hated it. So I came. I started in November of 2013. And the day I started, their one commercial account manager quit. And they're like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, I don't know. But sure enough, I said yes. I was making like $35,000, and it was real rough. It was really, really rough. It was a personalized agency. I still am close with the owner, but it was very personalized driven. There wasn't a ton of training on the commercial side. So I would call I had a couple underwriters, I had two underwriters who were both like old grandpas, and they were the nicest people. I call them like my state auto underwriter, this guy named Phil Lichty. I would call him all the time with these stupidest questions. Like, what's stopgap? what do I do with this? So like they just like, it was a ton of figuring it out. And there was not a lot of technology at that agency. And after my experience there, I was confident that technology was going to absolutely destroy our industry and that I was going to, not have a job. So I actively tried to get out of insurance for 4 years because I thought there was no hope for anything about this industry, because I thought everything was the same. I thought every agency was like that. I was disorganized, and it just wasn't fun. So right when I literally was about to just quit and go into a different industry, I got recruited by Hertvik. I came over here. Scott, Carey, who you know, and Jack, who you know both of them pretty well, but both of them were, we ran a little bit more like a business, I think, and there's a lot more organization, a lot more knowledge. I came here, I had figured out a lot of stuff by myself, but I wasn't sure if anything I knew was actually accurate because I was one who trained myself. So I came here, and we had this guy Mike on staff who's he's like my parents' age. He's my insurance encyclopedia, and he really helped me. Like within that year, I got my first year here, I got my CIC along with him, and just really gave me the confidence that I actually knew what I was doing a little bit, and also confirmed I was actually a terrible account manager. Like my personality type is the exact opposite of what you want for an account manager. So I made myself do it for a while. It was, I think I did a halfway decent job. The notes in AMS 360 maybe don't reflect that. But one thing I was pretty good at, which I enjoyed, was actually like working with underwriters, and I didn't think I was a salesperson, but I found that like I was selling things to underwriters all day long, So then I got involved with a couple insurtechs, Tarmica being one of them, and we were able to implement some tech like agency Zoom one, which really helped with some of the new venture things that we were launching. And I think the Jack and Scott kind of saw that maybe I was destined for something a little bit different than account management. So Scott was in the process of phasing out. I had a little bit of luck and good timing, so I was able to hop over to more the ownership side with Jack, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting. Number one, not only did you fall into the industry almost like under duress, only because of the state of the market at the time and whatever, but then you actively tried to get out of it, and you might arguably be in one of the agencies I would consider very, very well run in the state of Ohio. Like it's kind of interesting to me that that's not a normal journey by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like I had no idea that you tried to actively get out of the industry. Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
I hate it. I cannot tell you how much I hated it. I got it because I'm a very motivated person, and it got to the point where like towards the last 6 months I was there, like I would go to work and I would come home, and like I hated it. I had nothing I was working towards. And like, it was like, I felt so defeated. I never felt like that in my life, where I just like had nothing. I was like, man, I'm going to wake up and be 50 years old, sitting at the same desk, making the same amount of money. And it was like the last straw for me was like, I think I asked for like a $5,000 raise, and they told me no. And I was like, all right, I can make more money than this, like literally doing almost anything else in this world. I'm out, So, and it is crazy how it all works, because I tell my friends, like even my friends who are working around Wall Street, I'm like, man, if you guys, like, nothing against other people in our industry, but like the competition that I face in insurance versus the competition that they're facing on Wall Street, that's not typically the same caliber. So like my friends who are still working 80 to 100 hours, and like I'm like, dude, if you work that hard in my industry and you guys are as smart as you are, like what the heck are you doing? Like this is a way better spot to be. So
it's like it's like a best kept secret though. Like people don't know, and you don't think that it's going to be this
100%
incredible industry. So obviously account management wasn't for you, but I think you make a huge point. There's a lot of agencies that don't have great training. They put you in a role
Yeah.
that maybe you're not best suited for, and it becomes something that's not very motivating. And, thankfully you
Mm-hmm.
found a place that realized, hey, this guy could do so much more either in sales or in ownership or in leadership. Tell me what that journey was like, and getting people that are, let's just say, older than you. I don't know how much older than you. How do you influence people to change in this industry as someone that is new and, far more innovative? Tell me what that looked like.
Yeah, I think like, first of all, that Scott and Jack are both like very, you know, we're all alike and we don't mind being proven wrong. We want the end result to be right, whether it's our idea or not. So like, there's a ton of just like, a lot of things we were working on, especially these big projects. I had no right to even be giving my opinion. Does that make sense? But like they let me give my opinion, and some of the things that like, especially the lack of, for example, we were going to launch this pretty large joint venture with like a real estate company. We didn't even have a CRM. And we were talking about like running a spreadsheet. I was like, I don't think that's going to work very well. And we implemented a CRM and all the automation that came along with it and all that kind of stuff. And it like really made that a much better run organization. I think that was one of the things that really helped me. But just like, I hate when people say hard work, because that feels like I'm taking too much credit for my success. But I think a lot of it was just like, you come to work and you work as hard as you can every single day, be consistent and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that just, that goes a far way with people,
Agreed.
And even when I say I'm not good at account management, it just took like way too much effort to be detail oriented. Like I could do it, but it took like full effort to do that, because it's not in my nature to check all those boxes.
Well, I think that's something that like big picture of what you're saying is people, and I'm going to lump myself in with your generation. I think we're in the same generation. So let's just go with that. But people in our generation, right? We want to feel like we are doing something that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You checked that box. You tried to leave because you didn't feel like you were doing something that matters, but you did. Yeah. We want to be rewarded when we work really hard, especially I'm also going to let myself in with the motivation comment you made about yourself. Like people who were highly motivated and want to succeed, we want to be rewarded for that, usually monetarily. We also want our voice to be heard. We're not necessarily afraid to fail and be wrong.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are similar in the fact that I'm going to give you my opinion, even if you didn't really ask for it. Exactly. Like, sorry, exactly. Like that, it's just going to happen. You can tell me to shut up. But like, if I have something that I think is going to make you better, I'm going to tell you or make your company better. But I think that's like going to be the new standard for people who want high performers, people who really, really want to be there and want to work. Like, that's how you do it. You make sure they have information, they can share their opinions, and they are rewarded, and that they're doing something rewarding.
Yeah. To add on to that, like where my career really started to kind of shift was a combination of like, so I was really close with Scott Ewers, who we talked about, and like I really like he is from the generation older than us, and like all of the positive things from that generation, like the hard work and like all of that stuff, like he embodied all of that, and he really helped me get to the next level. But then especially once I became close friends with Harry, one of our mutual friends, Matt Namoli, like he really helped me think differently and like reframed a lot of things for me. And not just like, we're not just talking about financially, but just like as like goal orientation and especially like alignment. Like I think the biggest thing when you're talking about, and like we've taken that at Hertvik to the next level too, because like even as I was working my way up, I never like, initially I didn't feel like the hard work was necessarily being rewarded right away. Like it ended up working out for me, but that's still, as an employee, that feels risky. Like you're doing all this extra stuff and you don't know whether it's going to get rewarded or not. In the last job, no matter how hard it worked, I knew I was just I wasn't getting any benefit from it whatsoever. I was just paying for my boss's Escalade and $1 million house and whatever else. Right. And that's And once again, it's not all about money, but like, I think alignment is super important. So like, we've made a bunch of changes here because I want everyone, like, if it was up to me, like everyone to get paid the same amount of money and based on how much, and it's not just revenue, right? Customer service doesn't necessarily lead directly to revenue dollars like sales does, but still, like, if you can measure productivity, which a bunch of the effort we spent over the past couple of years is really trying to measure productivity in various roles and tie compensation to that, So like I wish every employee knew exactly what, the person sitting next to them make and why that person made more, you know what I mean? And that's what I need to do to get there. And that doesn't motivate everybody. There's plenty of people who that doesn't motivate, and that's fine. But for Lindsay, to your point, like the people who are very motivated, like you need to align what the organization's goals are and theirs. And that's a little bit different mindset, I think, than previous generations.
Yeah. We just had Billy Wagner on recently who was talking about his different steps. Do you know about his steps?
Yeah.
And I feel like as he was talking, I was like, holy crap, if I would have found this guy, like the moment I set my foot inside the insurance industry, my career in the industry would have been so different because I would have been like, how fast can I get to the top of that pyramid? Like that would have been the only thing on my mind, the entire eat, sleep, breathe, top of the pyramid, climb,
Yeah.
As I'm listening to both of you, I mean, obviously I'm in a different generation than both of you, but I'm an employer and I'm an owner of a business, and I'm thinking I would kill for people that think that way. I mean, that's the crazy part of sometimes in industry, those that are seeking people to be self-motivated and all of those things don't know how to embrace it the right way, don't know how to reward it, don't know how to harness that the right way. And those that have those skills get frustrated. Fantastic that you were able to find an organization that was able to do that, but it's not an easy journey because on the other side of it is you have no idea if this person has leadership skills, they might have drive and they might have whatever. And it is the crux of the challenge facing the industry today. There's so much talent getting ready to retire, and we don't bring in fresh talent and we don't provide a pathway to ownership very well. So this is the conversation that I think owners should be hearing. Like if you've got someone that's got some fire in the belly, thinks differently, that's your path. Like that, embrace it, figure out a way to embrace it, or you're going to have less options than what another agency does. I mean, that's really the reality, right?
There's definitely a lot of risk there too. Like just an example. So we use like one of those personality tests when we do the hiring. And it's funny because it judges you on everything from like, there's actually like a math section and a vocabulary. So there's like all of that stuff. And I was the worst fit that Hertvik's ever hired. Like seriously, like I got like a 65% fit or something like that.
That just tells you the test is flawed, my friend. The test is flawed.
Well, and it's funny because like that test was judging me as an account manager,
right?
I see. So that was 100% accurate.
That makes sense.
And all the weaknesses that I was pointing out are very accurate. Like I'm not a patient person. I'm not detail oriented. I don't deal well with dumb people. Like those are like 3 balls that like seriously the test is like rubs in your face, So like I thought it was really interesting.
Oh, that's super funny. I love it. Well, thank God they didn't put you really funny, role, right? Like, oh my goodness. So you're in the sales role.
Sorry, hang on. Before we move off that, have you ever done a test that's for a producer?
Well, that's what's even more funny. So I literally like they can take the same test and like fit you for a different role. And I literally just had them do that last week because I was interested.
Last week?
No, literally last week. And guess what? I suck at that too, apparently. So
okay, good. Glad to know.
But it's funny because like we talked through a lot of the like I was honestly insulted. I was like, man, like I didn't think I was that bad at this. Like what's happening? But then like we talked through a lot of things and like, the results were built around a certain model of producer. And I'm not that model. Like I'm very like consultative and, like I can't hard sell anything. It's just not, I can't do it. And if I was a car salesman, I wouldn't make $1 Like that one-time sale, like that's not me. Like building long-term relationships, like that's what's way more interesting to me. Like I like being like for my main clients, like I like to feel like they view me as part of their team, So like when a risk comes up, like I'm part of that inner circle who's making decisions with them or helping them make educated decisions. And that's a lot more rewarding to me than just closing something and moving on. So, and I think from talking to the lady who reviews the test with us, I think that's more kind of the old school version of what a producer is. I think that's what it's measured against, and that's not me. So yeah,
that makes total sense.
But yeah, so I scored equally terrible on that as well.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry to interrupt your question, Mom. Go ahead. So, I just had to know about the producer test.
Well, it's funny. I was actually, I'm a little shocked by that because I actually view you, Andrew, as having a pretty cool approach to sales that I think many agents could learn from. And it's not the call, the hards, like it's a different approach. So I'd love for you to describe that approach. And maybe maybe you're creating a new, standard for this test. Maybe that's what's happening here, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a couple, like I love like that max revenue guy on Twitter is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
right. Like
agreed.
I love like all of that stuff, but I was never gonna be a cold caller. Like I physically, and it's like I think anyone can do it if they can mentally get over themselves, and like that's a lot of what he talks about. But I can't mentally get over myself. I just can't do it. I don't know why. And to be fair, I also had a really strong base of the current clients at Hertvik. Like when I started getting involved in that, where I could leverage them as referral sources and things like that, and get in front of other people. So I'm not sure. Like, I think if you're starting out, like the cold calling, like I think is most definitely not dead. It's just 1000% not for me.
Yeah.
So where I was able to leverage a lot of what I did, which is like purely just building relationships with people, and like building those relationships. Once again, we talked about consistency earlier. It's being consistent in everything from the service you provide and, following up with your promises and making sure you're following through with all of that. And then when things go wrong, owning it, which things are going to go wrong. So just building that reputation, and every single, you ever hear, I forget who was talking about it, but you ever hear about the conversation about the different kinds of luck where like, there's just like the luck that falls in your lap, the luck that you create by just like bouncing around and causing motion. There's all these different types of luck. And I think like I do my best to try to like work my way up to that, to like I want to say it's Naval Ravikant was the person who was talking about it, but the top version of luck, which I have not got to yet, but I want to get there, is like where you're viewed as that expert and you're providing someone else that no one else can. Right. Mm-hmm. But not quite there yet. I'm still trying to take advantage of the opportunities which I'm creating just by bumping into other people, right? But I think we've been able to create a lot of opportunities within our organization and create even new entities by doing the basics, like following up, making sure that obviously we're doing a good job of educating and providing value to the client outside of just being a vendor. And I think we're able to leverage that to do some pretty cool things.
What's crazy is it's just not that sexy, like you're basically saying, be consistent, do what you're going to say what you're going to do, and do what you say you're going to do. And if you can do that, it creates success. I mean, you're calling it luck, but it genuinely just creates success. Mm-hmm. I also think though, you have a bit of a focus, correct? Like that you're not all over the place, correct?
Yeah. So to your first point, I think it's very much playing the long game,
yes.
With everything, whether it's like from a sales perspective, trying to close the deal. Like if I don't win something now and I'm providing value to that person, they're going to remember me when they need someone,
That's right.
So it's all about like, I never force anything. Like if the answer is no, like I might push back a little bit, but if the answer is no, it's like, maybe not right now, if I think it's a good fit for me. And we're also like, I try to be really particular with even like the prospects, like, which is why I don't like cold calling, because it's hard to be particular when you're cold calling, because when someone answers, you get them on the phone, it's like, you got to, and that's not me. Like I do as much due diligence I can to make sure that they're a fit for me before we even get to that next stage, which makes my hit ratio a lot higher.
Way higher.
To your second, remind me about the second part of your question. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Huh.
Oh, the niche. Yeah. So like I do a lot of property, which is really unfortunate being, this hard market. But one of the benefits are that like some existing clients at Hertvik who are now like some really good friends of mine were in the hotel space. And they're an awesome story as well. It's like a second generation hotel operator teamed up with his cousin's wife. And basically that guy had a strong background in like a Fortune 500 tech company. And they were basically came together and created like a really awesome business model. And like we were able to integrate the risk management piece with them and kind of grow with them as they've grown, and they've exploded. So taking what I've learned through working with people like them, and then has kind of just expanded with like a bunch of referral relationships across the board, whether it's debt brokers or commercial real estate agents and things like that. So we've been able to really focus. And once again, it's like having a strong team behind me. Like the team behind me honestly does most of the grunt work. Like they are doing the heavy lifting as far as dealing with creating the accords and all of the submissions and things like that. So I still get involved at some point talking to carriers and negotiating with underwriters, but even that, like the majority of what I try to do now is just drive these people in, which we've been pretty successful at over the past couple of years. So
yeah, I love it. So you're sitting in both the sales role and the ownership role, correct? That's
mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say to other owners that maybe have been in that role forever about how do they relate to the next generation of leaders? What advice would you give? Because I think you have a very unique perspective, Andrew. And I think there's agents out there that don't have someone that can tell them how to bring someone into the fold and what that should look like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that might be a better question for Jack, actually. but I think like I got really lucky because Jack and I have this conversation all the time. Like we're both very stubborn people, but we work really well together because both of us, we just want the end answer to be right. Like it doesn't have to be from us. And if we're wrong, like we're more than happy to be wrong as long as we end up in the right place. So the flexibility and like, we use a very butchered version of EOS, within our agency, and having a structure like that really helps you figure out who the leaders are within your organization, because that stuff bubbles up within those meetings, like who's solving the problems and all that kind of stuff. So doing that really separates the A players from the B players and the C players,
sure.
And a lot of the agency owners, I think, have not only just bringing people in, but to your point, like having people in the wrong seat. And, you look at a bunch of account managers and like basically your only gauge of how successful somebody is the lack of complaints you're hearing about somebody. Like that's literally the bar for that position, like there's not much else that you can measure. So utilizing a system like that. And once again, we use a very, very butchered version of that, but it's been really instrumental in trying to make sure that like, once again, everyone's aligned, working towards the same goals, and we're able to figure out who's, uncovering issues and solving issues. And it empowers them to be the one who actually solves the issues and doesn't put it all on our shoulders as well. Right. Like we're just being more strategic in direction. So I think as we hire, allows us to be more flexible with the younger people. And once again, like we're really leveraging the older generation, because we have that guy, Mike, who runs our commercial service department. Like he's literally older than my dad is. And then we have a woman named Mary Lou on the personal line side. So we got the expertise who can really make sure people are trained correctly and making sure the knowledge is there. And then we got like this newer generation who's adapting quickly to technology and like they're not hung up on how things are supposed to be done. That's not something like I hate that crap. That's like my least favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. I think it's something that's hard for some people to break away from. Like it's worked for 30 years. So it's super, super difficult. But if you create the infrastructure to have those tough conversations and let ideas bubble to the top, you're so much better, better suited. And what's interesting is, in the fractional CFO work that I'm doing, more and more agencies are adapting to or adopting this EOS model, whether it is exactly EOS or it's an abbreviated version. And you can see that actually it takes down the barriers of the way we've always done it in many cases, which is super impressive, but hard to do. I mean, there's just no two ways around that. But if an agency out there is thinking, man, I don't know if there's an internal option, or I wish that there was an internal option, you might want to talk to other agents who have found some internal options and really find the mentors, because they're out there, no question around it. And I think it's funny that you said that's a question that Jack should answer. But honestly, from your perspective, I think future owners should hear, look for the flexibility, be patient, actually care about the knowledge that's it's not about just wholesale changing everything. It's about blending it. Right. So I think it's both sides, actually.
Yeah. And like this is such a cliche, but it's the most accurate thing. Like, I have permission to fail. You know what I mean? Like, I've done some dumb crap. and Jack realizes that I'm going to continue to do dumb crap, but some of what I do is going to work, So like, and obviously like, it's not like there's no ramifications when I screw up something major, but still, like, I don't have to be scared and looking over my shoulder whenever like something goes wrong, and like, definitely. That's led to us having some massive opportunities. Like, Carey, you helped me so much with that new opportunity that we launched a couple months ago. And like, that's such a big opportunity, not only for us, but also our partners. And like, that's something that would not be possible in the great majority of agencies, especially for someone with, even like, obviously I have a minority owner position, for me to pitch that to Jack and be like, hey, I think we should do this, like, that's like
it's huge,
a big risk. It's a big risk from many perspectives, but the ability for me to build that relationship, foster to the point that it got to where it was, and then get that thing launched, is only possible because of everybody else. That's what I mean?
That's
like
right.
The expertise we have in the background. So yeah. Can't say enough good things about Jack and Scott.
Yeah, he's super great guys.
And want to take credit for
I like that you said, I have the permission to fail. I actually like the opposite view of that, is not only do you have the permission, but you're expected to fail. Because if you're not taking any chances, you literally aren't moving forward. You just can't. So, I have someone on my team, and that's what she loves. She likes to think outside the box. And she's like, even if I completely screw up, at least we moved forward and we thought through something. And I would agree with that. And I'm never changing that, because she makes us better. No question around it. Yeah. So I really actually like the idea of creating an environment where that's the expectation. I want you to find things to fail at, because you're also going to find things that we are wildly successful with. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And that's that's the only way you get to, like, we were able to take, so I didn't have a part in structuring the first joint venture we ever did. Like, that was done without me, right? I came in towards the end and helped implement the technology process and all that kind of stuff. But we were able to take that idea and then take it to the next level exactly because of that. Like, it literally took 4 or 5 years to get to that point, but we got there, so It is really interesting.
So, Andrew, if there is someone listening to this who is either young in insurance and is looking for their additional opportunities, or is an owner and is looking to hire someone who's young in insurance, how can they reach you to reach out and hear your thoughts?
I will leave my short email. So it's andrew@hertvik.com. I have a much longer email on that new venture, but and then LinkedIn too, Andrew Ryan. So however you want to, I'm more than happy to connect with people. I mean, Carey, the other thing is that circle of people that, like, you and I happen to belong to, like, the people within that group have been really instrumental in, especially as being a younger person, right? And Lindsay, you've seen the same thing, like, being a younger person who gets to, like, see all these people who are in various stages of success, but are still, like, working towards something is awesome. That camaraderie, and, like, that's been a really cool thing. So
yeah, I agree.
shout out to Chris Paradiso for including me on that. Actually, that's been pretty instrumental in my career as well.
Yeah. All right. So we wish your family all the best as you welcome, the third Ryan to the Broad, and we can't wait to see pictures. We truly can't. Andrew, thanks for coming on and being our guest.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.